Okay, let's unpack this source you've shared. Today we're doing a deep dive into, well, a really fundamental principle of how humans interact.
Hmm.
Specifically, according to this material, how to get people to willingly do what you suggest.
Yeah, it's quite something. It's not really about, twisting arms or just giving orders.
Right.
It's about finding a way to make the other person genuinely want to do the thing, to be happy about it even.
Exactly. And our source material for this deep dive is, it's a really fascinating chapter that zeroes in on this one specific idea. It pulls lessons from some pretty significant historical moments,
Yeah. Big stuff.
all the way down to like everyday situations, things you or I might run into.
And our mission really is to pull out the most powerful examples
Mm.
and the practical insights the source offers. We want to understand why this approach works
Mm-hmm.
and how focusing on the other person's perspective, their benefits, like the source describes it, can make you much more effective.
Right. So the core idea is making the other person happy
Mhm.
about doing the thing you suggest. Now, on the surface, that might sound a bit, I don't know, simplistic, maybe a little manipulative.
It could sound that way initially, but let's dig into what the source actually means by happy here.
Oh.
It's not always about joy necessarily,
Okay.
and we'll see how this principle plays out in some, frankly, surprising ways.
So where does the source start? You mentioned history.
Yeah, it starts with some historical heavy hitters to really make its point. Think back to 1915. Woodrow Wilson was trying to nudge Europe towards peace during World War I.
Yeah.
And he needed someone to go over there, kind of act as his personal, unofficial representative,
Yeah.
a delicate mission.
And William Jennings Bryan, who was the Secretary of State then, a huge peace advocate.
Hmm.
He really wanted that role, right?
Yeah.
Saw it as a major opportunity.
He absolutely did, but Wilson actually appointed his close friend and advisor, Colonel Edward M. House, instead.
So House gets the job.
Right. Which means House had the really delicate task of telling Bryan, the Secretary of State, no, without, causing a huge political or personal blowup.
That sounds awkward. How did he manage it?
Well, according to his diary, which the source quotes, House handled it masterfully. He notes Bryan was, and this is a direct quote, distinctly disappointed.
I bet.
And Bryan apparently said he had planned to do this himself.
So what did House say?
This is the key part. House's response, again from the diary entry in the source, was, I replied that the president thought it would be unwise for anyone to do this officially,
Okay.
and that his going, meaning Bryan's going, would attract a great deal of attention and people would wonder why he was there.
Wow. Okay, so he didn't say, sorry, you're not the right guy,
Yeah,
or the president wants me.
not at all. He framed Bryan not getting the job as a consequence of Bryan being just too important for an unofficial mission.
Huh. That's clever.
His high profile, his official status, would actually jeopardize the mission's secrecy. So, the source points out, House subtly made Bryan feel, well, elevated, necessary right where he was.
So you satisfied him despite the disappointment.
Exactly. He essentially made Bryan feel good about not getting what he wanted by appealing to Bryan's sense of importance and status, making him happy about the reason he wasn't chosen.
That's a really sophisticated application of this idea, making them happy about the reasoning, not just the outcome.
It really is. And Woodrow Wilson himself, the source shows, used this same kind of approach successfully other times, like when he invited William Gibbs McAdoo to be Secretary of the Treasury.
Huge job, especially back then.
Massive. Critical time. And Wilson presented the offer in such a way that McAdoo apparently said it made him feel doubly important.
Doubly important.
How? Well, McAdoo's own words, quoted in the source, are pretty telling, he said. Wilson had a delightful way of putting things. He created the impression that by accepting this great honor, I would be doing him a favor.
Oh, that's brilliant. So taking one of the most powerful jobs isn't just an honor for McAdoo.
Right.
It's framed as McAdoo helping Wilson out, doing him a service.
Completely flips the script, doesn't it?
Yep.
And according to the source, that made McAdoo feel even better, even more valued when accepting.
Okay, so Wilson could clearly use this principle effectively.
He could, but, and this is where the source really pivots, it shows the absolutely immense cost of failing to use this principle. It argues Wilson's failure here regarding the League of Nations had catastrophic results.
Ah, the League of Nations fight. So what was the mistake, according to this source?
Well, when Wilson went to the crucial Paris Peace Conference after World War I, he famously refused to include prominent Republican leaders on his delegation. Guys like Elihu Root, Charles Evans Hughes, or especially Henry Cabot Lodge, his main rival on this.
Right, I remember that. He took Democrats, mostly people less known.
Exactly. He took men from his own party, some relatively unknown. And the source argues this completely alienated the Republicans. It prevented them from feeling any sense of ownership, any investment in the league.
They didn't have a stake in it.
They didn't get a finger in the pie, as the
Yeah.
source puts it. They weren't made to feel it was partly their idea or their project.
And the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
The source connects this failure directly.
Oh, it pulls no punches. It calls Wilson's approach a crude handling of human relations, and it asserts, pretty strongly, that this failure wrecked Wilson's career, ruined his health, maybe even shortened his life.
Wow.
And directly caused America to stay out of the League of Nations. And then it goes even further, saying this failure altered the history of the world.
That is a heavy claim. But you can see the logic.
It's a dramatic illustration, for sure, but the source uses it to drive home the point. If you neglect to make key players feel included, feel important, feel like the idea is partly theirs, you don't just fail to get their support, you can actively create powerful, motivated opposition. You didn't make them happy or invested in your suggestion.
And the cost can be enormous.
Precisely.
Okay, that's a powerful arc. From subtle diplomacy with Brian to world-altering consequences with the League, all tied to this one idea. But the source doesn't just stay at that high level, does it? It brings it down to earth.
No, exactly. It smoothly transitions from that huge historical drama to much more relatable, everyday examples that still really hammer home the point.
Like what?
Well, there's a story about a guy named Dale O'Farrier and his son, Jeff. Jeff apparently really hated picking up pears that had fallen under a tree before his dad mowed the lawn. You know, typical kid chore dodging.
I can picture it. Probably did a sloppy job.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
So Farrier, the dad, made a deal with him. He said, okay, Jeff, I'll give you $1 for every bushel basket of pears you pick up.
Okay, standard incentive.
But here's the twist, he added, and I will take away $1 for every single pear I find left in the yard after you say you're done.
Ooh, okay. Immediate consequence for carelessness.
Exactly. It instantly tied the chore not just to earning money, which Jeff wanted, but also to not losing money. Self-interest was hit from both sides.
So what happened?
The source says Jeff didn't just pick up all the pears meticulously. Apparently his dad had to watch him to stop him from pulling more pears off the tree just to fill his baskets faster.
Huh. That's fantastic. It wasn't nagging. It wasn't punishment.
Yep.
It was structuring the task so that doing it right was the absolute best way for Jeff to get what he wanted, the money. He became happy, in a way, about being careful because it directly benefited him.
Perfectly illustrates the principle in a simple setting. Then there's another one about a man who got lots of speaking invitations he couldn't possibly accept.
Right, common problem for busy people. How did he handle it? Just say, sorry, too busy.
Well, that's what many people do, and it can sometimes leave the person who invited you feeling a bit brushed off or unimportant.
Yeah.
But this man, the source says, handled it adroitly, very skillfully. He'd expressed genuine appreciation for the invitation, sincerely regret he couldn't make it because of prior commitments.
Okay, polite basics.
But then, crucially, he would immediately suggest a specific substitute speaker he thought would be excellent for their event.
Ah, so he offers a solution right away.
Instantly. He didn't give the other person time to sort of dwell on the rejection or feel let down. Their mind immediately shifted focus to, oh, who's this other person? Would they work?
So he made them happy, or at least content, with the refusal itself by providing an immediate, helpful path forward that still met their underlying need, finding a good speaker.
You got it. And this principle pops up in management contexts, too. There's an example from a Gunter Schmidt who managed a food store. He had an employee who was consistently careless with putting price tags on shelves.
Yeah, that causes problems. Customer complaints, checkout confusion.
Big problems. And Schmidt had tried reminding her, talking to her about it, but nothing worked. Admonitions failed.
So what did he do? Apply the principle.
He did. He tried a completely different angle. He called her into his office, and instead of criticizing her, he appointed her supervisor of price tag posting for the entire store.
Seriously? He gave her a title.
A title and sole responsibility and authority over all the price tags in the whole place.
And did it work?
The source says this new responsibility and title changed her attitude completely. She started doing the job diligently, accurately, satisfactorily, giving her that sense of importance, that ownership.
Did what criticism couldn't.
Exactly. She felt responsible, maybe even proud.
It sounds almost like, well, The source brings up Napoleon, doesn't it?
It does. It links this kind of thing back to Napoleon Bonaparte. Apparently, Napoleon gave him criticism for creating things like the Legion of Honor, giving out titles, medals, basically seen as giving toys to battle-hardened veterans.
Right, like why would these tough soldiers care about ribbons and fancy names?
Yet Napoleon's famous reply, according to the source, was incredibly insightful. He said, "Men are ruled by toys."
Men are ruled by toys. What's the source suggesting with that? That people are childish.
I don't think it means childish in a negative way. It's more that these seemingly small things, titles, recognition, a feeling of authority being needed, being seen.
Like with the price tag supervisor.
Exactly. Or Napoleon's medals. They tap into really fundamental human needs, the need for status, for self-worth, for feeling like you matter, maybe a sense of control.
So they aren't just literal toys, they're symbols, motivators.
They're appeals to these deeper drives, and the source suggests these can be far more effective motivators than just logic or orders or criticism alone.
And there's another example that really drives this toys idea home, isn't there? The one about the lawn.
Oh yeah, Mrs. Ernest Gent in Starsdale. She had this ongoing problem with neighborhood boys cutting across her lawn and wrecking it.
A classic suburban drama.
And her usual methods, yelling at them, pleading with them, totally ineffective.
So what did she do? Identify the ringleader?
Precisely. She figured out who the worst sinner was, the main troublemaker, and instead of punishing him...
She applied the principle. Let me guess. She gave him a job.
You nailed it. She gave him a title and authority. She appointed him her official detective and put him in charge of keeping all the other boys off the lawn.
Her lawn detective, I love it.
And the source says giving him this title and a feeling of authority solved her problem instantly, like magic.
Did it mention how he enforced it?
It does, and the source includes this slightly extreme detail. Apparently the boy, feeling very empowered, built a bonfire, heated up an iron, and threatened to brand anyone who dared step on the lawn.
Whoa. Okay, maybe let's not endorse that particular enforcement method.
Agreed. Definitely don't try the hot iron part at home.
But the core point holds, even with the wild ending. She shifted from trying to stop bad behavior directly
to giving someone a sense of responsibility, importance, a role. She made him happy about his role and achieving her goal, keeping the lawn clear. And that changed everything.
So looking across all these stories, Wilson and Bryan, McAdoo, the League disaster, the pears, the speaker refusals, the price tags, Napoleon's toys, the lawn detective.
It's quite a range, isn't it?
It is. But the core idea the source keeps highlighting is the same, isn't it? It's about that fundamental shift in focus.
Exactly. Stop focusing only on your wants, your needs, the task itself. Instead, shift your entire focus to understanding and appealing to the other person's wants, their perspective, their drives, and how doing what you suggest benefits them.
And the source tries to make this more concrete, right? It offers some guidelines.
It does. It synthesizes these examples into some practical guidelines for applying this principle, especially if you're in a position of leadership or just trying to influence someone's attitude or behavior. There are 7 points it lays out.
Okay, what are they?
All right. 1, be sincere. Don't promise things you can't deliver. That backfires.
Makes sense. 2,
forget your benefits for a moment. Concentrate on the benefits to the other person.
Okay. 3,
know exactly what it is you want the other person to do. Be clear in your own mind first.
right. 4,
Be empathetic. Genuinely ask yourself, what does this other person really want? What motivates them deep down?
5,
Consider the benefits that specific person will receive from doing what you suggest. Make it personal.
okay. 6,
Match those benefits directly to that person's wants. Connect the dots for them.
and the last one, 7.
When you actually make your request, frame it, phrase it, put it in a form that clearly conveys the personal benefit to them.
Okay, those 7 points really lay out the strategy. It turns the idea into something you can actually try to follow.
Yeah, it gives you a kind of checklist for thinking through your approach. And the source gives a simple example to illustrate this, comparing a typical order to one using these guidelines. It's about cleaning a stockroom.
The stockroom example. Okay, what's the before? The standard way.
The standard, curt order goes something like this. John, we have customers coming in tomorrow, and I need the stockroom cleaned out. So sweep it out, put the stock in neat piles on the shelves, and polish the counter.
Yep. Direct, clear, task-focused. Sounds like a typical boss instruction.
Totally. Now, here's how the source suggests reframing that exact same request, but applying these principles, showing the benefits to John.
Okay, the after.
John, we have a job that should be completed right away. If it is done now, we won't be faced with it later.
Benefit number one,
Yeah,
get it over with.
right. Then it continues. I am bringing some customers in tomorrow to show our facilities. I would like to show them the stockroom, but it is in poor shape. If you could sweep it out, put the stock in neat piles on the shelves, and polish the counter, it would make us look efficient, and you will have done your part to provide a good company image.
Ah, okay. So benefit two is contributing to the company's image, being part of the team effort, maybe taking pride in the space.
Exactly. And the source's analysis here is pretty nuanced. It admits, look, John probably isn't going to be jumping for joy about cleaning the stockroom either way.
Right, still cleaning the stockroom.
It's still the same task. But the argument goes, he will likely be happier and definitely more cooperative than if he just got the blunt order.
Because it connects the task to things he might care about.
Precisely. Avoiding future hassle, won't be faced with it later, or contributing to something bigger, your part, good company image, especially if, as the source notes, John actually has some pride in his work area or cares about how the company looks.
So it's not presented as a magic wand.
Oh.
It's not guaranteeing they'll suddenly love the task.
No, the source is very clear on that. It says it's naive to expect a favorable reaction every single time. People are complex, situations vary. But it argues experience shows you are significantly more likely to change attitudes to get willing cooperation this way than by just demanding or stating your own needs.
And there's a benefit for the person trying to influence, too.
Yes, the source points out the practical upside for you. Even if this approach only increases your success rate by, say, a mere 10%, well, then you've become 10% more effective as a leader, as the source puts it. And that 10% can make a huge difference over time.
That makes sense. It's about increasing your odds of success. Now, the source labels this specific idea we've been digging into. Right.
It does. It identifies this approach as Principle 9. Make the other person happy about doing the thing you suggest.
Principle 9. And it mentions this is part of a larger set.
Yeah, it notes this is just one principle in a larger collection focused on leadership and influencing people, which it lists in a summary section, like in a nutshell part.
Does it list the others quickly?
It does. It mentions Principle 1. Begin with praise and honest appreciation. Principle 2. Call attention to people's mistakes indirectly. Principle 3. Talk about your own mistakes before criticizing the other person. Principle 4. Ask questions instead of giving direct orders. Principle 5. Let the other person save face. Principle 6. Praise the slightest improvement and praise every improvement. Principle 7. Give the other person a fine reputation to live up to. Principle 8. Use encouragement. Make the fault seem easy to correct.
And that brings us back full circle to today's focus.
Principle 9. Make the other person happy about doing the thing you suggest. That's the one we've really unpacked today.
So wrapping this up, the core insight from this source material seems to be the surprising power of shifting your focus.
Yeah, it's almost counterintuitive sometimes. Moving away from your desires, your demands, the task itself.
And moving towards understanding and genuinely appealing to the other person's perspective, their desires, their motivations, and framing the task in terms of how it benefits them.
And we saw this play out across such different arenas, didn't we?
We really did. From, high-stakes international diplomacy with Wilson.
Down to motivating kids to pick up pairs, managing employees effectively, even dealing with lawn-destroying neighborhood kids.
It shows the breadth of where this understanding of human behavior, as the source illustrates it, can apply.
And it really does make you think about that Napoleon quote the source highlighted, "Men are ruled by toys."
Yeah, that quote sticks with you.
If things like titles, recognition, feeling needed, feeling important, having a sense of authority, or seeing a clear personal benefit, if these toys are such powerful fundamental motivators.
Tapping into those deeper needs for status or self-worth or control.
Right, then how many opportunities are we missing maybe every day to influence others more effectively? Are we just too focused on the task or our own goals?
Instead of thinking about how to make the other person genuinely feel good or important or see the benefit in doing what we're suggesting.
It's definitely something to think about. What subtle toys, or maybe better put, what genuine appeals to the other person's wants and needs could you identify and offer in your own interactions this week?
How could you apply Principle 9, making someone happier about doing the thing you suggest? A provocative thought to end on.